the more effective way of using that, of using senses, is if you can put your sensory descriptions closer to the emotional center, to the emotional content of your story. All right, so in my story, I jump across, I slam into the cliff, and I talk about how I get this taste in my mouth, this bitter, acrid taste of blood and adrenaline, right? And that's one of the more emotional points of my story. When I finally make it to the cliff, I find something to grab onto. So there's an emotional release there, and I can anchor that with this taste. You know, you're feeling that taste, you're feeling your heartbeat, you're feeling the adrenaline go through. You're sort of sharing that experience that I had when I jumped across the cliff. Right? And then, I check my notes. Oh yeah. Okay, so for the pacing of the story, I like to think about telling the story by the edges, right? So there are a lot of details you put in, and there are a lot of details you leave out. And the way you make the decision about which ones to do are which are the ones that pushes your story forward, which are the ones that are boundaries between things. So, for example, like when I did the cliff, that was a boundary. There was me on one side of the cliff, there was me on the other side of the gorge. And so I put in a lot of details in the moment because that's a transitional moment. Like all of the stuff which is not transitional, where say we're just doing the beginning climbing and all that stuff, you know, that took a couple of days and that was 2 sentences, right? And then it's one moment where it was literally a second and I spent probably 45 seconds talking about it because that's a transition. So if you're having trouble pacing your stories and people are starting to glaze over, it's probably because you're telling things that we can easily assume, right? It's content that's not taking us anywhere. It's maybe fleshing it out, and you can make it really flowery. But if you want it to be effective, it should be something that changes the course, something that takes us from one place to another. So it's an edge. If I'm filling in the walls and the spaces, then that's probably wasted detail. And okay. Everything we've talked up to so far up here, pretty much, including Dodgers and Cactus, has been about content. And content is really important. But you should also pay attention to your delivery, right? Delivery is key. Have you guys ever seen Dane Cook? Yeah? Okay. Next time you see a Dane Cook routine, or if you can even remember one, like if you write out the words of his jokes, they're really not that funny compared to like Chris Rock or Jerry Seinfeld or Bill Cosby. Like, and you notice that people don't really go around quoting Dane Cook because his jokes really aren't that good, right? But his delivery is killer. I mean, it is killer in terms of his timing, in terms of his enthusiasm, his animation. Like he's all over the place and he's just so intriguing to watch. And he believes in it so much. He's so congruent with this sort of comedian archetype, with being funny. Even though his material isn't that great, people still laugh and he still kills when he goes on stage, right? So if you can master both content and delivery, then you will be unstoppable. So for delivery, you want to have very animated gestures. You want to connect with people, so you look them in the eyes. So like when I was talking about this conversation I had with my friend, and I said, I looked at him across the canyon, right? And I was like, and I stared right at you, right? And I brought you into that moment. And I sort of replayed that for you right there. And that was like authentic delivery of that. You're bouncing around, you're connecting with people, and you're varying your tonations, you're taking pauses, and all of those things which go into delivery, if you can master that, and the point of delivery is that it is the subtext that shows that you think your story is interesting. If I'm telling my story just monotone and I'm not really moving around, and even if it's the coolest story ever, if it just sounds boring, people are going to assume that it is, or they're going to say, well, this guy thinks his story's boring because he's not putting any effort into the telling of it, right? They're going to pick up on that vibe, and they're going to start tuning out, and they're not going to believe that your story is interesting. But if you tell it with passion, you're animated, you believe in it, you have intonations which are interesting, and gestures, and vary your tone of voice, and you have things going on, then people will believe and pick up on that vibe that your story is interesting and they want to hear it. All right.
How much animation is too much animation?
That you have to calibrate that. That really depends on the environment. So for a night game, for clubs, you can really be all over the place.
Right.
If you're in if you're in a coffee shop, then you can be waving your hands, you can be moving around, but you're probably not going to want to be yelling.
Right.
And you're probably not going to want to be think about what your facial expressions are doing, right? And so you're going to have to calibrate that to the environment and to the girl.
Right.
But you definitely probably want to be. They say you should enter a set with like on energy or with maybe a little bit higher energy than what the person has. So think about this: that you want your interactions with girls to pop. You want to feel that there's this like charge. And one of the really great ways to do that is when you're telling DHV stories, you have that energy in you, right? And think about, okay, this is the energy level she's at. I'm going to be a little bit higher, and I'm going to bring her up to me. I'm going to bring her up to my energy level, to my level of interaction, right? So whatever venue you're in, if you're in a really high energy venue and she's already bouncing around and being a party girl, then still you can come in even a little bit higher and just bring her up to you, right? And that's going to attract her to you. If you're in a coffee shop, she's reading a book or whatever, come in just a little bit higher, and you're going to be a little bit more interesting than her book, and that's going to bring you up. If you come in way too high energy, then you're going to seem like a psycho if you're in a coffee shop or a bookstore or something. So just a little bit higher, that she has something that she can aspire to but seems attainable, right? Okay, so delivery is very important. And the other half of the delivery is the keynote, right? Working in keynote with stories is really great. It was a little bit hard to do as a demonstration for my story, because everyone is like sitting and there's desks in front of you. But if you can illustrate any sort of physical contact in your story by actually doing it, that makes it more real, and it gives you opportunities to touch her that seem innocuous, but that builds your keynote comfort level, right? So for example, when I'm in set and I'm doing that DHV story, and I get to the part where I tell my friend that I love him and he's my brother and it's okay, I'll actually grab hold of the girl's hand and be like, put my hand on her shoulder and stare right at her and be like, I love you, you're my brother. No matter jump or no jump, doesn't change anything. It's okay, right? And so she's gonna have this physical connection. I'm gonna be holding onto her hand. Sometimes I'll even put my hand on her shoulder right here, so I'll have my thumb over towards her heart. Cool. She'll feel that. Yeah, well, I don't know. Not necessarily do that, right? Or if I tell the part when I jump across and I crash into the cliff, I'll actually just crash into her. I'll jump across and do the Superman thing and you're the cliff. I crash into you, I grab on, I pull myself up. Right? That's like dominance keynote that's built into the story. And she's gonna think, okay, this is this guy being animated, he's telling the story and it feels congruent to her. It makes her a part of the story. But now she's become comfortable with you touching her. You seem like a guy who touches girls all the time and it's no big deal. Right?
Yeah.
So your keynote's built in. Sam?
So really this is about being really interactive and really actually bringing people into the story to help them not only feel like they were really there, but to make them part of the entire experience.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the more you can get people to relive what you lived with your DHV, the more memorable it will be.
Let's say you got you're saying this to 5 people. Would you keep doing the different interactions with everyone in the group, you think? Or would you just sort of try to stick to one person? I'm guessing everyone, but that's just asking.
Yeah, I guess with everyone. And I concentrate the keynote mostly on the target, obviously.
Yeah.
But I make eye contact with everybody. And a really great thing to do is say if you're the target, then I can pin you in by putting my hand on your shoulder and grabbing your hand, right? And so I'm holding you here, and I have your attention because I'm physically connected with you. Well, one of the interesting things about Kino is that if I'm physically connected with you, part of your brain that is linguistic starts to shut down because you're getting all this physical sensory information, and the auditory sensory information is less important. Okay, so you're the target. If I'm Kinoing you, you're going to be tuning out a little bit, right? So you're paying attention to what's physically happening between us. Now, the rest, that means I can devote the rest of my attention on another person, the next person set, one of the obstacles, or whoever, right? So I'm physically connecting with you, and